Alright, hey everyone, this is Truck and Bear. Welcome back to Car Mechanic Simulator 2018. Today I've got my buddy Steve from Blunt Force Ram on here with me. He is spectating today, and he is actually spectating through Steam Broadcast, and there's about a 15-second delay. So he's going to see everything that's going on about 15 seconds after we do it, which is going to make the commentary either awesome or terrible. We'll let you decide when it's all over. Steve, you want to pop in and say hi to everybody?
Give me 15 seconds.
Fair enough. All right, so as y'all remember last time we left off, I've got the, let's see, what is this here? The Royale Crown over here. And,
Ford Taurus.
Yeah, Ford Taurus or Ford, one of those Ford cars. And we've got the Mayan M3 here, which I believe is a Audi copy.
Audi A4.
Audi A4, yes. Steve's done a little bit of research apparently, or he's just that... He has that much spare time to stare at cars. So,
I'm a mechanic.
There's that too. Steve is currently a professional mechanic. That's what he does for a living. I used to could.
Whoa,
currently is.
I don't tag me with the title of professional. That's up to other people's opinions. Most people just view me as that creepy guy who seems to know what's wrong with the car.
This is true. But see, when it comes to mechanicing, I used to could. Steve still could if he needed to.
Used to could.
I used to could.
I used to could mechanicking.
Exactly. I used to could mechanic. I couldn't mechanic no more. So now I drive truck because much easier for caveman. So today we have the Royale Crown up here on the rack. That's car,
a nice rack.
Yeah, it is a very nice rack. That is a Quattro brand rack, actually. If you look up here, Quattro brand, which, again, this has a heavy German influence, so I'm going to go with that's an Audi reference. I could be totally wrong, but that's what we're going to go with. So our Royale Crown has some control issues. Controlling car feels loose. They also don't English very good. So, it needs a sway bar front end link A, outer tie rod steering rack, and a sway bar rear end link. So, we are going to hop under this thing and do some suspension work. I know at the end of last episode I talked to y'all and I said I was going to try to grind and get some stuff done, or if y'all wanted, we could, I could show the process of what I'm doing. I ended up deciding I'm gonna go ahead and show a little bit of what I'm doing so that, we're not, y'all aren't missing out on what's happening here, because it's, so exciting. Let's see, what is going to be, okay, so I have to take the wheel off before I can take that tie rod out, which makes no sense, because in the real world, that's not a big deal. You just take the tie rod out, or not the tie rod, the sway bar link. The sway bar link you can take off with the tire in place, shouldn't matter. But this is a video game, damn it, and therefore, logic do good.
By the way, roughly about 40 seconds ago, you looked at the grill, and I swear to God, that looks a lot like a Maserati emblem.
Yeah, the emblems in this game, I've noticed, are kind of strange. The other thing I've noticed, and actually Steve pointed out to me earlier, when you are on the driver's side of the car, the parts, or the lug bolts, come apart.
Lug studs.
Well, on this, it's the bolts. It's not lug nuts. It's lug bolts.
No, lug studs.
Lug studs. Excuse me, lug studs.
Yeah, Volkswagen, BMW, Audi, they're called lug studs because for some reasons they need to do things backwards.
Yeah, which I explained that to everyone last episode, that for some reason Volkswagen decided that was a good idea. I can't tell you why, but that is apparently what they thought was a good idea, and so more power to them. But that being said,
it's not hard enough to sit there and change a wheel on a car that's 5 foot in the air. Now I got to hold the thing up while I put the bolts in.
Exactly. So the studs, lug studs, Steve, lug studs, not bolts.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for correcting me.
Yes, but yeah. So the thing is if you'll notice, I'll go ahead and just no, it won't let me throw the wheel back on unless I put parts back in. But the lug studs on the driver's side are actually reverse threaded. They righty loosey, lefty tighty, which doesn't work very good. It makes no sense.
That's why Ford stopped doing that in the 80s.
Yeah, that was a Ford thing back in the 80s, and their thought process was, if I remember correctly, Steve, their thought process was that because it was on that side of the car, they would work themselves loose because of the motion of the car. Is that correct? Because of the predominant turning of the wheels?
To be quite honest, I don't know why they did that. It's probably the same guy who came up with that idea as the same guy who in the 90s said, let's make a 7-bolt rim.
This is true. Yes, they also did that.
Yeah.
Ford has made some questionable...
Questionable?
Yes, questionable. They've made some questionable decisions in their car building, and we can't really get mad at them. It's just in their
King
nature.
Cobra, 140 horsepower of mini Mustang awesomeness.
Or no. What about the Edsel? There was the Edsel,
True.
and that thing was absolutely hideous. For those of you who don't know, go look up an Edsel, E-D-S-E-L. The thing was absolutely hideous. They took some of the cues from Cadillac, rotated them 90 degrees, and made them ugly. That's essentially what an Edsel is. It's a Cadillac with all the key features turned on their side. So
don't forget the poor man's 3/4 ton.
Yeah, that was also a very bad design.
Half-ton frame, half-ton body, 3/4 ton axles, and a hitch.
Yeah, which essentially meant you could tow absolutely nothing, going very slowly with really bad gas mileage.
But your axles would last forever.
Yes, your axles would last forever, and that's good because that's how long it would take to get there.
Yeah, especially once you blow the transmission, I have to find a steep hill to make it the rest of the way.
Exactly. All right, so we need sway bar front end link A, outer tie rod, sway bar rear end link, and steering rack. So we are.
No, I'm not a Dodge guy.
Oh no, not at all. So we're gonna hop in here and we're gonna say rack.
Insert hate comment now.
Yeah. There's probably we're gonna start a war in the comments section between Ford, Dodge, and Chevy. Which I think
we're going to start one. That war's been going on since like the freaking 70s.
This is true, but what I do want to point out to everyone is we can all agree Honda sucks. So there's that.
Whoa, be careful there, buddy.
And now we've started the war. Let's see.
What's next? Then they're going to go, the Nissans have a Cummins in them.
Oh yeah, we're not even going to start on that. All right, we need one of these and one of these. We're going to go ahead and get all these parts. Head back over to our cheap knockoff Ford vehicle and start putting her back together. So we open the rows menu, go to our part mount, and
it's all about licensing.
Exactly. Well, the DLCs for this game, actually, the first two DLCs, there are actual Dodge and Mazda vehicles in it. I have both DLCs for Dodge and Mazda vehicles, and it's actually a really not a bad DLC. They do include a couple of vehicles. For the Mazdas, it is the RX-7 and the RX-3. And then Dodge, the Dodge DLC, you get a late 60s, early 70s Challenger, and you get a late 60s, early 70s Charger. Now again, what I was talking about earlier with Steve, if you look, this actually turns left to Titan, and we don't know why. But yeah, so in the DLCs, they've got some really cool stuff, and like I said in a couple of the past videos, I really want to see what the modding community does with this. I don't know if you got any thoughts on that, Steve, but I know with what we've seen out of modders in the past with other games, I think if they get their hands on this game, they could do beautiful things. But it's a question of who does the mods and puts in the time to do it. I think that if it were done and done right, it would look absolutely fantastic. There would be...
No, I mean, right from the late 60s Charger, you can basically build, like, what, 6 or 7 different cars out of that?
Yeah, well, again, yeah, a lot of the late 60s, early 70s Mopar stuff was...
the Daytona, the Super B,
which actually
any version of the Roadrunner.
They have a knockoff Daytona or Superbird with the big wing in the game. They have a knockoff of that, and
you're not Superbird.
Superbird.
Roadrunner. There's a Super B, a Roadrunner, and the Daytona, and then the Roadrunner was like a package, just like the Super B was a package.
Right.
Technically, the Daytona was a package too, but it's well, I mean, if you got a welder and you know body work, it's actually not that hard to convert a Charger into a Daytona.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, I don't know
a nose clip and a wing.
Yeah, I don't know the old Dodges as well as I should. I'm an old Chevy guy, but yeah, I forget. It's the one with the pointed, basically the fiberglass or whatever they used front bumper, and then the big, 17-foot tall wing in the back. Which vehicle was that?
That's the Daytona. That was basically the road version of a stock car, because that was, of course, back when stock cars were actually stock cars.
Yeah, true. All right, so if we look here at
funny.
oh, go ahead.
It's funny because there was like a commercial done on NASCAR, and like there's a guy they're interviewing, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I love watching NASCAR nowadays because you look on the car and it says Toyota Corolla, and that's what I'm driving out in the parking lot." I'm like, yeah, buddy, there's a huge difference between that 1,000-horse monster with a fiberglass body and your Corolla in the parking lot.
Yeah, that's
first of all, they all run Chevy motors.
Yeah, which again, not a bad thing, but yeah, not a Corolla. So, but if we look here at the status menu, which by now Steve should be able to see it in front of us, hopefully.
Oh yeah.
We can see everything is checked off, and we are good to finish this order with a total payout of $1,726 for 4 steering parts. That's not too bad. So,
did you do an alignment?
No.
What's your labor rate?
Whatever they pay. That's the thing is, it doesn't show a labor rate. It doesn't show you that. They just kind of tell you what you're going to get paid. So we're going to get the Mayan
haggle system. I like it.
Yes, we're going to get the this thing up on the whatever vehicle. I could have swore this was the Mayan. It's still showing a Royale Crown. Am I losing my mind? No, okay, there it is, the Mayan M3. We're going to get the Mayan M3 up here. Now, this one has poor brake performance, so we need an ABS module, a brake caliper, a ventilated brake disc, and a standard brake disc. So, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go buy those parts. ABS module, brake caliper, ventilated brake disc, regular brake disc. Brake disc. So, if we get those parts ahead of time, it'll be able to save us a little bit of time in the once we're actually taking everything apart, we can just immediately put the
It'll
good
save
parts
you the
on.
amount of time it took you to think of the words to describe that it would save you the time.
Exactly. That is exactly what it's going to do.
And that's why you're not a manager.
Exactly.
I need you to go sweep the frickin', that deal that you work in all day.
Yeah, that one.
Bay.
Yes, so, since we know we have a bad brake disc, I'm looking here, there it is. This one is the rustiest of brake discs, so we are going to pull that wheel off, and actually this also looks like the wheel that has the bad caliper, so we should be able to, we'll be able to get at least 2 of our 4 bad parts done right here on this wheel. So we should be able to go right back to mounting and put in our good parts. Now, Steve has watched the first 2 episodes So I know he's heard me say in those that it doesn't make any sense that you put on a brand new brake disc, brand new rotor, and put old brake pads on it. Or that you do brake pads just on one side of the vehicle. Again, doesn't really make sense at all.
Or take the cylinder out of the caliper every freaking time.
Yeah, again, very
the piston,
wonky.
sorry.
Yeah. Again, very, very wonky system, but...
Or the fact that a car that just drove there is able to have that much rust on the actual surface area of the rotor.
Yeah, and I know I've explained that in previous episodes, that, you know, if your brake disc looks like that... Yes. One of the two. I've probably said it in both, because for those of you that haven't figured it out by now, I am prone to repeating myself just a little bit. So...
And it's because he forgot he said it the first time. It's a combination of short-term memory loss and, you know, ADD.
Which is a horrible combination. Because over the next 3 or 4 episodes, you're going to hear me tell you the exact same things in the commentary. Every single episode.
So if you don't want to hear that, just tune out and don't watch them.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good way to do it. That'll speed up the process. There's a good possibility that through watching this channel, you're probably going to have some brain cell loss. It's definitely a possibility.
There's 1 or 2 reasons to watch your channel there. Not enough fiber in your diet, or too much alcohol.
That makes sense, yeah. You know, and actually, so Steve and I have talked about different channel ideas over the years, and at one point...
By the way, I want to point out, thanks for kind of jumping back and forth between my screen name and my name. I'm Steve, by the way.
I introduced you as Steve when we started this episode.
No, you introduced me as Blunt Force Ram.
Steve, from the channel Blunt Force Ram.
I don't know why you said from the channel. What channel?
You have a video.
I have 2 videos, and they both suck.
Well, at least you're honest. So we're now at the car status screen. Everything has a check mark, so $1,475, or $1,417. I can't read. And
dyslexic much.
Mayan, exactly. And that's not even dyslexia, because a 1 is not a 5. But the Mayan M3 is out the door. So, actually, we have a RX-7 in our orders here. So we're going to go ahead and take that, because we have not worked on a rotary yet here. That's something I'm very excited to get up onto the rack and take a look at. Because I haven't seen one of these yet in the game. I've watched a couple other guys playing. Nobody has done one yet, you know, in a video that I've seen. Probably by now there's somebody out there that's done it. I just haven't seen their video. But we also have a Royale Crown. Oh, that's gone. We have a Dodge Charger. We have 2 different vehicles from the one vehicle from each DLC. So we've got a late 60s. I'm assuming this is probably a 68, 69 Dodge Charger. It's got the, as you can see, the go fast swoops on the door. Those are very important.
What? Did that say MAG?
Which one?
On the Charger. Sorry, remember 15 secones ago.
Yes.
You were looking at the menu and it said Dodge Charger MAG. It wouldn't have been called a Magnum yet.
Let's see. No, it doesn't say MAG. Oh, yeah. V8 OHV MAG. That's what it's listing for engine. So if we pop the hood, what you and I viewers, what we see and what Steve sees here shortly is it looks like a V8 overhead valve engine. We're gonna go ahead and pull the air cleaner because I'm curious. It is a.
Is it a carburetor or TBI?
It's definitely carbureted, but on the Challenger they run a 6-pack setup. This is actually just a single 4-barrel. So it's a single 4-barrel carb, but yeah, if you if you get a chance, or if I get a chance, not you, me, if I get a chance before this episode's over, we might hop out to the car showroom, or maybe we can find one here in game before the end of the episode, and show y'all the 6-pack motor, which looks glorious. So, but to the matter at hand, we have a RX-7.
Oh, okay, no, hang on. I correct myself. That is, with the distributor off to the side like that, that should actually be a 440 Magnum.
Gotcha, okay. That would make sense.
Okay.
Because the
it's
other...
the 318s and the 360s that weren't called Magnums yet.
Yeah, no, they weren't called Magnums for what, at least another decade, correct?
Yeah, something like that. I want to say it was the late 80s.
Well, I just did a stupid.
What's that?
You'll see in about 15 seconds. I accidentally clicked finish order on our RX-7, so our RX-7 with poor brake performance is gone. So we're going to take our Charger with the 440 Magnum and move it to the lift, and we're going to see what's wrong with it instead, because our RX-7 has walked out the door, and currently, unfortunately, there is not one waiting for us. So, now there is a Mayan M6. There's 2 of them in our orders, and there's a Mayan M3 4x4. So an all-wheel drive A4. So, and that one's got brake issues. Let's see, a Mayan M6 with front suspension issues. Another Mayan with front suspension issues. And here's another Charger with...
You know what? Those Mayans are probably supposed to be... They're probably supposed to be BMWs. That's why they're calling them M6s and M3s. Possibly,
yeah, that would make sense. So, we now actually have 2 Chargers, as you'll see in a minute there, Steve. So we've got one Charger here.
15 seconds, don't exaggerate.
Exactly. So the one we already had needs just a brake drum. So let's go ahead and put this thing in the air and take a look, see which side needs a brake drum. We'll go ahead and get that swapped out. So I can't tell from the back side here because of the back plate, and the wheels don't allow me to get a good look in there, but I'm going to assume that it's this side. It looks like this is the bad brake drum. I could be wrong. We'll see. Oh, yes. This is the bad one. So we're going to go ahead and pull this brake drum off. Yep, that's it. 11%. Go buy a brake drum. And we will be able to get that thing right out the door and work on our second Dodge Charger, which... from what I could tell from the description, I believe has some timing issues and needs an oil change.
So, out of curiosity, at what level can you start taking these things down to the test track?
We can actually... That's something I should have already done, actually, on this episode. I was meaning to do that in this episode. So we may do that on the next one.
You got a Charger.
Yeah, we may do that on this next one if... there's no provided list, which I don't think there was. So we're going to check status on this one, and yes, this Charger is done and out the door. So let's take a look at the status of our second Charger. And, well, unfortunately, there is a list provided on both of these, but I think we'll go ahead and just do the test track just to be thorough. So, if I can remember how to do that, we should be able to go to the main gate here, click on our test track, and yes, we are going to take our Dodge Charger out and take it for a spin, see if we can find anything else wrong with it, like a wall that it may or may not end up hitting, because unfortunately the cars in this control poorly at best.
I've heard the physics are better in this one.
They are to a degree, but the vehicles handle like garbage because, well, physics. because I'm driving a boat that has lots of horsepower and 0 turning, so there's that.
And you're in kilometers. Uh-huh.
Yes, it is a game that was developed by Europeans, I believe, Germans, I'm assuming. And so therefore, oh yeah, this thing handles like a boat at best. She is unwieldy, and it's really not fun to control with a keyboard and mouse versus if we had a steering wheel. And she has brake problems, so we'll see. And she did stop in time. All right. So that was our test drive. So now it'll show us all the parts we tested and what their percentages are. Alrighty. So we have... Okay, so here's what happens when you take a car on the test track. You get this expanded view with all these different parts, and it tells you at the bottom how many parts were examined. In this case, 27. And it shows you each individual part and what the percentages are. So if you have something that comes in that, something in the brakes or the suspension is bad, or even in the gearbox and clutch assemblies, then you can take it out on the test track and it will show you right here if there are any bad parts. Now, another odd thing in this game, which I don't think... I haven't torn anything apart far enough to have y'all have seen it in any of my videos, but in all the other videos I've watched, every vehicle in this game is a manual, and yet it's not. And what I mean by that, it's going to be kind of hard to explain, but I'll do the best I can here. We're going to go ahead and lift this car up, and the transmission, when you pull it out, there's a clutch pressure plate and a clutch release bearing, the clutch friction disc itself, all of those things. But
the throwout bearing.
Yeah, the throwout bearing, everything you would expect on a manual transmission. But if you look right here, which Steve, you'll see here shortly, there's no shifter on the top of this transmission. Technically, there's no shifter anywhere on this transmission. And so...
Well, hang on. Go... Oh, well... I was going to say, wait, go back to the left side, and then I realized you may have already done that.
Yes. I've done both the left and the right side.
But there's a... Well, no, that's interesting. So there may not be a shifter, but that is, in fact, a manual transmission.
Because there's a PTO plate on it.
Why there's a PTO plate on a Charger, I don't know. It's like they tried to use... But the weird thing is the housing looks like an automatic.
Exactly. It's a very strange way that they did things on this. But again, I'm gonna say they probably weren't mechanics, but it could be worse. So
it could actually be broken down to probably game development. If you had to make a wireframe and a 3D rendering of each transmission for each vehicle, that would take up a lot of data, reduce loading times, or increase loading times and all that stuff. So it's probably easier just to make one generic transmission. And I'm almost wondering if you bring a 4x4 in, if there'll be some kind of transfer case or something stuck in that PTO port to drive the front wheels.
I believe so. Or, well, no. The four-wheel drive, if you'll notice the back of the trans, there is what appears to be similar to a slip yoke, but there's also the companion flange bolt up.
Tail housing.
Yeah. They actually have a transfer case on the back, which, not...
Even in the cars?
Yes.
Huh.
So, I believe, from what I've seen, that's the way it would be. So, we need a V8 oil filter, just plain V8 oil filter, the yellow filter, if you will. Well, it is yellow, and the sad thing is
It's a Fram. It's a Fram.
Well, no, and the funny thing is that the oil filters in this game, if you have an inline 3, a 3-cylinder, it's orange. A 4-cylinder is blue. A 6-cylinder is white. The rotary filter is green. Your V8 overhead valve is black, and your standard V8 is yellow. So you can actually go by the color of the filter.
Just not to, draw you back to the transmission for a minute there.
No, go ahead.
It looks like a very close rendering to the manual transmission that had been found behind an RT 440. And in fact, that plate that looks like a PTO cover would have had the, would have had the shift linkages to it. The fact that basically the shift linkages are controlled through inputs on the side instead of the top. You're trying to look for a transmission that looks more like a new venture, which would have been found in the trucks.
Well, yeah, and technically you're right that, the column shift manuals would have something set up like that, but these would have been a floor shift, and therefore you'd expect to see something...
No. Even on the floor shift, it's just using linkages. Instead of having a stick actually mounted to the transmission going through the floor, the stick is mounted to the floorboard and then connected with linkages.
There we go. So there you have it, everyone. We now know why the manual transmission looks like an automatic transmission. Now, again, though, it is very strange that all the transmissions in this game are, manual. Everything you work on, it uses... Actually, the funny thing is, every vehicle uses the exact same clutch. They use the exact same pressure plate and throwout bearing, all of it. It doesn't matter whether it's a car, a truck, a boat, SUV, whatever. Well, there's not any boats, obviously, because it's a car mechanic simulator, but whatever vehicle you're working on, all of the clutch parts are the same. So, yeah, it's a little odd, but it does do the job, It made it easier for them, and I can't get mad at that, because I can't imagine trying to program all of the different parts in the way they did, so... Now, just to be sure, I'm going to double check, because we did have a parts list. So we got the water pump and water pump pulley, the timing chain, and the cam gear is what we're replacing in this. So we're halfway there. I've got everything torn down to our timing cover, which we'll finish pulling off now. And then we will have access to our timing set. Now, we're going to go ahead and pull our timing chain and our cam gear, and that should be it for our bad parts. Cam gear, timing chain, water pump pulley, yep. So, if we go over here, back to our computer, which I know I've said it before, I don't think, well, you probably saw it in the last episode, Steve, but the, as you get further into the game, and I need to check if the cam gear is just listed as a plain, no, cam gear V8 OHV, and then timing chain V8 OHVF. Okay, so it's not our standard V8 OHV timing chain. So our cam gear is going to be this one right here, and our timing chain is going to be V8 OHVF, and then we also needed water pump and water pump pulley. Yes. So we'll go ahead and buy those as well. And
I like how all the parts are painted.
Water pump pulley, check. And then which water pump do we need for this thing? It is listed as V8 OHVC.
The yellow one?
Yes, the yellow one.
Because the old one's yellow?
I didn't get a good look at it before I started clicking things and whatnot. So we're going to go back into our parts mounting mode. And we don't want to do the radiator first because that would make everything else a pain in the hind end. So we'll mount this stuff from up here. And get our timing cover on. There we go, get those 6 bolts done. Now we can do the water pump. So, but yeah, as I was saying, when you upgrade in this game, the different upgrades, you know, you can speed up how quickly you, you know, attach parts, and, you know, how quickly you can ratchet things. You can upgrade all kinds of stuff as you go along, but you can also upgrade to where you have a tablet, to where instead of going to and from the computer every time, you know, and having to walk back to the car if you forget what you need or whatever, you can, while sitting underneath the car, go ahead and pull out the tablet and order your parts, which makes the parts ordering process a lot easier, just because you're not having to go anywhere. And also, if you can't remember something, you can go straight from the tablet back to the car and check what parts you need. Now, there is a feature...
And in real life, that's your nap time.
Exactly. Now, the other thing is there is a parts list feature in this game, where you can add parts to a parts list that you can supposedly access from in the tablet or the computer. And I have not yet figured out how to use that, if that's something you have to unlock, or if... oh, wow, that seems a little broken. So our oil jug is currently in the air cleaner. They've merged into one. So we're gonna...
That is the best way to do it.
Exactly. That is the official way to do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some oil in this thing, and
it'll smoke for a little bit, but your rings will thank you.
Exactly. And just to be thorough, we'll go ahead and check the dipstick. Perfect as usual. And I believe that should do it for this charger. We have changed the oil, and we fixed all of our timing parts, and for a cool $930 payout. So, not bad at all. Now, it seems we've leveled up a little bit. We've leveled up. No, I went ahead and returned that one to the customer, but we've leveled up a little bit. So I'm going to go into the upgrades menu here, and we have 2 available skill points. So what I think I want to do is I want to expand our garage. We're going to expand the garage, and then that will open up this next tier, and we can either unlock the tablet, we can raise our repair chances, we can unlock the tire tread tester, or the level 1 examination tool, where you instantly examine 3 parts when you first see the car, whether it's through the order, the barn, or the junkyard, auction, or wherever. I think we're going to have to go tablet. As much as I want to raise my repair chance, the tablet's going to be more useful for getting things done.
I like how the repair chance is represented by a roll of duct tape.
Yes, it really is. It's realistic. So
it really is. Duct tape and WD-40 fixes all.
Yes, it does. All right. Well, I think for the moment we're going to call this episode good where we stand. We've gotten a little bit done. We've upgraded a few things. Before I get too far ahead, I want to make sure I empty out my inventory as usual. But because at the end of the day, we sell off all of our junk parts and make a little bit extra money back. You know, helps maintain this place. So. But now that we've expanded the shop, we'll actually go over to that side of the shop and show you what we've expanded over here. We have our repair bench, and this is where we can repair parts, which right now we have nothing to repair. Actually, we might have been able to repair some of that stuff I just sold. That would have been a thing to check out. But we've got a repair bench. Well, we can always do that next episode. I'm not the best at this. I don't game do well things. But we have a door. So what does this do? Oh, and it opens. They both open. And this takes us to... This takes us to the test path. Or the path test, excuse me. And the path test is a electronic test machine, and you run the car along and it'll check the brakes and suspension, similar to the test drive, but you don't have to drive anywhere. You can do it right here in the shop. So that is something we will definitely have to check out in the next episode. And
Which is strange,
as well as,
that really just looks like an alignment machine, but okay.
yeah, kind of. But we'll do that, and then we'll also test out this repair bench and try not to break parts into non-usability, which is a thing you can do. So we'll
like
go
on a
ahead.
Carter 2BB carburetor.
Exactly. Which yes, we've done that, and it didn't go well. So if we look here at what we have sitting here waiting on as far as orders go, I'm gonna say, let's see. We haven't done this thing yet. It's a SUV, Mioveni URS. URS, just URS. Why not? We'll give it a shot. We'll bring that thing into here, and we'll go ahead and put that one on the rack. And that will be our first vehicle on the next episode. And I believe what we're going to do is the second vehicle on that episode is the Caster Avalanche, which I'm kind of on the fence. It looks kind of like a Ford SUV, but it also looks kind of like a Land Rover. And then also a little bit like a Honda Pilot. There's a lot that can be said here. It's like you took a Land Rover and then just kind of smooshed the roof down a little bit. I think that's what we're going to go with.
I'm going to say it's Land Rover, yeah.
Yeah, but if you wait until you see the side profile I'm looking at, it's a Land Rover that got dropped on its head.
No. That's, I can't remember the exact model. I've seen one. They come in a front-wheel drive option. I remember because a mutual friend of ours, Bear, when he worked in a shop with me, and I'm sure you remember what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The first time we had one come in, and he found out it was front-wheel drive only, he was like, how the hell do you rove the land in two-wheel drive?
Yes, this is true. You cannot rove the land in two-wheel drive. That is not, that is not something that works very well. Especially when it's the wrong two wheels. So,
the Land Rover, Range Rover Evoque.
Ah, okay, yeah, that might be one, yeah. So
it's the Evoque.
Well, what I think we're going to do here, everybody, is we're going to end the episode. We've made some progress. We've unlocked some stuff. We've got plenty to do next time. So if you enjoyed what you saw, like and subscribe below. You know, make sure you see all the new stuff as it comes out. If you want to see anything different, if you're bored, if you're tired of it, if you want to see more restorations, if you want to, you know, if you think that we suck, put something in the comments. Let us know. Let us know how you feel. Other than that, you know, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Beep. This recording was recorded in front of a rather absent and silent audience. Beep.